Welcome back. Today, I've brought the answers of the 45 questions of the self evaluation test of the chapter Weathering the Storm in Ersama. So, here are the answers. I know that you have been waiting for this, so I've brought this video today. Now, the latest videos that I've already uploaded. So, 45 questions of the self evaluation test. It also has quick visual summary, character sketch, title, and theme. So, if you haven't attempted the questions, you can go back and attempt these questions and then come back to the answers. And I have also uploaded 25 questions of the legend of Northland along with 10 MCQs. So it also has exclusive explanation. It is an animated explanation, so go and do watch it. Then theme and literary devices. So these are the two latest ones, and already there are explanations of other chapters also, and that is included in the playlist. And for this, you have landed on the right channel, that is English for all reasons good. So let's get started with the answers because there are 45 questions. I want to be quick. Before that, subscribe to my channel and don't forget to like it. This is the first question. What setback had Prashant gone through 7 years back? Prashant had lost his mother 7 years back, which was a great emotional setback for him. So the marks of the question, since it is 1 mark, so this much answer is perfect. Then what unexpected thing awaited Prashant at his friend's house? This is a 2 marks question. Prashant had gone to spend the day at his friend's place at the block headquarters of Ersama, a small town in coastal Orissa. Suddenly in the evening, dark clouds gathered and a menacing storm hit the area. People were caught unalarmed. Prashant had never witnessed such a fury in the storm before. This is a fill in the blank. So the words that are in blue, they are filling the blanks. So Prashant was 18 kilometers away from his village at the block headquarters of Ersama, a small town in coastal Orissa. Question number 4. The people of Ersama were caught unexpectedly in the storm. What havoc did the storm bring in their lives? So people, they were caught unprepared and unalarmed in the storm. Strong winds with a velocity of 350 kilometers per hour along with continuous heavy rain brought havoc in the lives of the people. Ancient trees were uprooted and they crashed on the ground. Screams rent the air as people and houses were swiftly washed away. The surge of the ocean continued for the next 36 hours. Although the wind speed had reduced by the next day, many lives were lost. Rising water was posing a danger to the survivors. All round, one could see animal carcasses and human corpses floating. There was destruction and devastation caused by the cyclone as far as one could see. So, this was the havoc that was caused by the storm, and this answer, it will be asked in different styles in different ways. So in case the question it is different but the answer is the same, I will be skipping the answer and you can pause at the slide if you want for that answer. How did Prashant and his friend's family survive for 2 days? Prashant and his friend's family had to take refuge on the rooftop of their house to save themselves from the rising water. They were stuck on the roof of their house for 2 days. Because of strong wind, the coconut trees growing around their house were uprooted and they crashed on the roof of the house, damaging the roof and the walls of the house. Though the trees caused damage, it proved to be a blessing in disguise for them as they survived on tender coconuts from the fallen trees for several days that followed. So this can again come as a separate question, that why the coconut trees, they proved to be blessing in disguise. So this can be a separate question, and this is the complete answer how they survived for 2 days. So first you will be telling that why they were taking the refuge on the rooftop, and then you will talk about the coconut trees. Now, sixth question. The first glimpse of devastation brought by the cyclone sent Prashant in a deep shock. Why? So this is again the description of the storm. So I'm going to skip it. I'm just reading the concluding lines because that is the lines, they are a little different. So bloated animal carcasses and human corpses, they uprooted trees, they floated in every direction. So no house was left untouched by the fury of the storm. So it is again the same, that how they were trapped on the rooftop of the friend's house as their house was filled with water. So they spent their night there huddled together, and Prashant, he could not see the devastation because The storm had started in the evening, but in the morning he was shocked to see that destruction. So again, it is the same destruction that is described in the previous answer. Now, how did two fallen coconut trees prove to be a blessing in disguise for Prashant and his friend's family? So again, I've already discussed it, so I'm not reading it. Question number 8, it is fill in the blank. So contrary to the belief of Prashant and his friend's family, their house that was built of brick and mortar could not withstand the devastation caused by strong wind blowing with a velocity of 350 kilometers per hour. Now, contrary to the belief, it means that they believed that their house was strong enough to withstand the fury of the storm, but the storm was so fierce that it could not. What terrorized the family in the middle of the night? So in the middle of the night, the coconut trees that were growing around the house of the family, they crashed on the roof of the house, damaging the roof and the walls. So this terrorized the family. What thought troubled Prashant all the time during the storm? As Prashant sat huddled with his friend's family in the open on the rooftop, braving cold winds and incessant rain, the only thought that flashed his mind was whether his family had survived the fury of the super cyclone or not. So he was worried about his family. Now we have an extract. Was he to be bereaved once again? So who is he in the above line? He is Prashant in the above line. And why was he to be bereaved again? So he feared that because of the storm, he might have to go through the same pain that he went through 7 years back. So, 7 years back, we've already read what had happened. He had lost his mother. So, now he was fearing that in case he loses some other family member, so he would have to go through the same pain. So, he didn't want that. So, what grief he had gone through before, so that I've already discussed, he had lost his mother, which was a great setback for him. What destruction did storm cause in the next 36 hours? So again, this I have already discussed. Many lives they were lost, bloated animal carcasses, human corpses, and uprooted trees they floated. Only remnants of the buildings and houses could be seen. No house was left untouched in the fury of the storm. So this is what happened. Why was Prashant and his friends' family forced to huddle in open on the rooftop? Again, this is already discussed in the previous question. So, water level they were rising, and since there was no other way to escape, so they had to take refuge on their rooftop. Why did the 2 days spent in the storm seem like 2 years to Prashant? So the fear of unknown is the most disturbing. The same was happening with Prashant. As he sat huddled with his friend's family on the rooftop of their house, the only thought that flashed his mind was whether his family would be able to survive the storm, if they were safe. Each passing minute seemed like an hour, and 2 days appeared to be 2 years for the want of any news of the well being of his family. So, this question is important. The fear of unknown. So, what is unknown here? Unknown here is what is happening with his family in his village. So, that is unknown. So that is why, because there was no news from about his family, so he was worried, and each passing minute or each passing second seemed like an hour, and 2 days appeared to be like 2 years. Prashant's friend's family pleaded with him to stay back a little while longer, but he knew he had to go. Why? So it was becoming difficult for Prashant to pass every second trapped on the rooftop of his friend's house. When rainwater started receding after 2 days, he decided to start for his village because he could not wait any longer. But his friend's family knew that it was still dangerous. Therefore, they pleaded with him to stay back a little while longer. But Prashant wanted to know about the well being of his family as soon as possible. So he decided that he must go. Question 16. What scenes horrified Prashant on the way back to his village? So now once he started, what horrified him? Prashant equipped himself with a long sturdy stick and started for his village. He had to locate the road under water before moving ahead. As he waded through water, the scenes he witnessed were horrifying. He had to push away many human bodies and carcasses of animals. In every village that he passed, he could barely see a house standing. This gripped him in the fear of losing his family. Since the scenes he was witnessing, they were horrifying. So he felt that his family might not have survived. Prashant had to swim at several points because he lost the road as water was quite deep at these points. So, again, this is a fill in the blank type question. Now, question 18. Prashant felt relieved at one point on his way back to his village. Why? On his way back, Prashant met two friends of his uncle who were also returning to the village. So Prashant decided to go with them and was relieved. On his way back to his village, Prashant wept out loud and long. Why? Prashant witnessed very disturbing scenes around him. As he waded through the water towards his village, he realized that it was the same story everywhere. One could hardly see any house standing or any corner untouched by the destruction wrought by the cyclone. He lost all hope to see any of his family members alive. He was sure that they could not have survived this catastrophe. All these thoughts made him cry loud and long. Question 20th. What thoughts crossed Prashant's mind as he waded through the water? So, this I have just discussed. It is the same answer, just the form of the question is changed. So, I am not reading the answer. Let's move on to 21st. Prashant's heart went cold when he reached his village. Why? As Prashant reached his village, his heart sank to see that the place where their home once stood was completely shattered. So here you can even write his heart went cold or his heart sank. It's the same meaning. So his house was completely shattered. He could only find remnants of the roof there. Some of their belongings, they were caught, mangled, and twisted in the branches of trees just visible above the dark waters. He dreaded his fear might come true. So, seeing the condition of the place, he dreaded his fear might come true. So, what was the fear? The fear that he might have lost his family members. Why did Prashant decide to go to the Red Cross shelter? When he reached his village, he was not able to find anyone there. The place where their home stood once was destroyed in the storm. So he decided to go to the Red Cross shelter to look for his family. It was a miracle. What miracle is being talked about here and why is it called a miracle? Now, it was a miracle for the family members to see Prashant back. It was a miracle because the family had already given up hope to find him alive after the furious storm. So the family in the village, they were thinking that maybe Prashant will not survive the storm, and Prashant was thinking that his family members will not survive. So therefore, when family members they saw Prashant back, it was a miracle for them. Was Prashant able to find his family? How? Yes, he was able to find his family. When he reached his village, his heart went cold seeing only the remnants of the roof of their house and nothing else. He didn't find anyone around. So he decided to go and check out the Red Cross shelter to see if any of his family members had survived the storm. There, among the first people he saw in the crowd was his maternal grandmother. She came and hugged him with outstretched arms. Quickly, word spread, and his extended family gathered around him and hugged him tight in relief. So everyone were happy. A word that means very disturbing scenes, so that is macabre in para 2. Now page numbers, that is they are already given in the self-evaluation test, so that is why here I have not included the page number. Again, fill in the blanks. So 86 people in his village, they had lost their lives and all the 96 houses they were washed away due to the storm. 27th, how many people were rendered homeless in that storm? 2,500 people were rendered homeless. An extract now. As he took in the desperate situation in the shelter, so this is the line. Who is he in the above line? Prashant is he in the above line. Explain as he took in the desperate situation. So what is the meaning of took in the situation? So it means as he comprehended and observed the pitiable condition of the people in the shelter. So here took in means to comprehend, to observe, or to take a note of the situation. Why was the situation desperate? It was desperate because people had been rendered homeless, they were starving, many children had lost their parents, and many women were widowed. There was a feeling of hopelessness among the people. No one was there to guide them out of the desperate situation. So, because of this, the situation was very desperate. Why did Prashant decide to get a grip over himself? Prashant realized that without proper management, many people among the survivors would lose their lives in the shelter. There was no arrangement of food and cleanliness. People were grieved and going into deep depression. So, forgetting about his own pain, Prashant decided to control his emotions, or you can write get a grip over him and step in as a leader. So, as he comprehended the situation, as he took in the situation, as we have read in the previous question. So he felt that if proper management is not done, even many people who have survived the storm, they would die because of starvation or because of injuries that they have. So he decided to step in as a leader, and he decided to control his emotions or keep his grief on one side. Now, how had the people in the shelter survived for 4 days? The people in the shelter had survived on green coconuts for 4 days, but these coconuts could last only a few days for 2,500 people in the shelter. So there were 2,500 people. So how many days you can think they could have survived on green coconuts? Question 31. Why did Prashant decide to step in as a leader of his village? So, again, it's the same question because he thought that proper management was required, otherwise, many people among the survivors would die. So, people they were grieved, they were going into depression, there was no arrangement of food and cleanliness. So, he controlled his emotions and he decided to step in as a leader. What was the first thing that he did for his people in the shelter? So, the first thing that Prashant did after organizing the group of youths and elders was to pressurize the merchant to part with his rice. So, the first thing was, of course, to arrange food for everyone. So, his first aim was to arrange food for everyone in the shelter. No one cared that the rice was already rotting. Branches from the fallen trees were gathered and rice they were cooked on slow and reluctant fire. For the first time in 4 days, everyone in the shelter filled their bellies. Now, why the rice were cooked on slow and reluctant fire? Because the branches of the trees they were still damp, they were wet. So that is why it was slow and reluctant fire. What was the second important task that he performed in the shelter? Now, after arranging for food, his second important task was to take care of the cleanliness inside the shelter. He organized a team of youth volunteers to clean the shelter of filth, vomit, and floating carcasses as it could lead to disease. First aid was provided to those who were wounded or injured. So, after providing for food, now the second important task was to take care of the cleanliness and also to take care of the injured and the wounded people. Now, again, one word or fill in the blank question. The word that suggests a state of confusion and disorder is tumult. 35th question. How were the helicopters signaled to airdrop food and other basic needs at the shelter? After 4 days in the shelter, it was on the fifth day that a helicopter flew over the shelter and dropped food parcels, but it did not return after that. Insightfully, Prashant deputed the children to lie in the sand left by the waters around the shelter with empty utensils on their stomachs to communicate to the passing helicopters that they were hungry. The message got through, and after that, the helicopter made regular rounds of the shelter, airdropping food and other basic needs. So, very intelligently, Prashant he made the children then lie down with empty utensils on their stomach. How did Prashant take care of the orphaned children? He brought the orphaned children together and put up a polythene sheet shelter for them. Women, they were mobilized to look after them, while men secured food and materials for the shelter. So he brought all the orphan children together and made them stay at one place so that they can become or they can create an emotional bond among themselves. And he asked women to take care of those children. Why were women and children sinking deep into their grief? So, women who had been widowed or had lost their children, and the children who had been orphaned, they were sinking deeper and deeper into their grief because of their loss and loneliness. So, their loss was great. Children, they had lost their parents, and women, they had lost their family. So, they were lonely. A feeling of insecurity had gripped them. So, that is why they were sinking deeper and deeper into grief. What did Prashant decide to do to bring people back to their lives? Prashant sensed the feeling of worthlessness and hopelessness ensuing among the people in the shelter, especially women and children. He persuaded the women to start working in the Food for Work program started by an NGO. And for the children, he organized sports events like cricket matches. So he thought that if women and children they keep themselves engaged, so obviously they won't have time to think about their pain. And Prashant engaged with other volunteers in helping the widows and children to pick up the broken pieces of their lives. So like this, he tried to help themselves in one way or the other, and he helped them to pick up the broken pieces of their lives. Question 39. What was the initial plan of the government and why was it resisted? The initial government plan was to set up institutions for orphans and widows. However, this step was successfully resisted as it was felt that in such institutions, children would grow up without love. The widows they would suffer from stigma and loneliness. So government decided to set up a separate institution for orphans and widows. But Prashant, he felt that in such institutions, children and widows, they'll be away from their community. So there they will even feel more lonely. So that is why in such institutions, they would suffer from stigma and loneliness. So they'll become even more lonely, even more depressed. So that is why it was resisted. A word that means to prepare and organize for active service, it is mobilize. Question number 41. What did Prashant and his group believe about the resettlement of the orphans and the widows? So Prashant and his group believed that orphans they should be resettled in their own community, possibly in new foster families made up of childless widows and children without adult care. So what they felt that the widows who have lost their family members, so who are childless, so they can adopt the children who have been orphaned. So like this, children they'll get a family and widows they'll get a meaning for to live their life. So like this, both widows and children they could benefit from each other and provide emotional support. How did Prashant overcome the emotional setback caused by the cyclone? Prashant tirelessly worked for bringing the life of the people of his village back on track. He did not have time to think about his own pain or grief. His wounded spirit healed simply because he had no time to bother about his own pain. So that is why, like this, Prashant he got himself busy to help other people and therefore he came out of his own emotional setback. Now, question 43. Prashant has become the most sought after face by the people of his village at the time of any difficulty. Why? Prashant tirelessly worked for bringing the life of the people of his village back on track. He kept their pain ahead of his grief. He emerged as a true leader, and his compassion touched every heart. Thus, he became the most sought after face by the people of his village at the time of any difficulty. Now, the long questions. Now, here, question number 44 and 45, they are almost the same, only the concluding paragraph that will differ. So, in the answer, I have just changed the last paragraph for 45th question because rest of the matter is going to be the same. So I'll read the questions. 44th is that real leaders they are born at the time of adversity. You have to justify the statement with reference to the chapter. And next is courage is in the heart and not in the muscle. Intelligence is in the head and not in the age. So again you have to justify the statement with reference to Prashant. So Prashant, since he was only 19 years, so age doesn't matter. It is not that only an elderly person can do such a task. And courage, of course, it is in the heart and not in the muscles. Prashant, he was just a boy. He was not a robust or strong man. But still, he was able to bring 2,500 people out of their hopeless stage. So now the answer. Prashant emerged as a true leader amidst the super cyclone. Forgetting his own pain, he took upon himself the responsibility of 2,500 survivors in his village. Taking note of the situation, he started by tackling the most urgent needs first, like food and cleanliness. He organized the youth and the elders in the camp to provide for the basic needs of the people and gathered volunteers to clean the shelter of filth, debris, vomit, carcasses of animals, etc. He involved himself in each and every activity so set an example for others in the camp. He was quick to recognize that children and widows who had lost their families were losing hope. He encouraged childless widows to take care of the orphaned children, thus creating foster families for them. He motivated women to join the Food for Work program started by an NGO, and to keep children engaged, he organized cricket matches for them. Although he himself was going through grim setback, perceiving the pain of others, he forgot about his grief. He selflessly devoted himself to bring the life of the people back on track. He touched every aspect of the life of the people with empathy, which made people seek him in their darkest hour of grief. He rose to the stature of a hero, a real leader who came forward not for some personal or selfish motive, but simply because of compassion. Thus, it is rightly said that a real leader, they are born at the time of adversity. So this is the conclusion for the first, and the concluding paragraph in case you are writing the answer for the second one, that is 45th. So you can conclude it like this. Courageously, he stood for his people. He did not wait for any outside help but found intelligent and practical solutions for the problems faced by the people. His prompt decisions and actions, like signaling the helicopters and planning the resettlement of the orphans and the widows, prove that courage is in the heart, not in the muscle, and intelligence is in the head, not in the age. So, like this, you can conclude your answer. Only the conclusion is going to be the different, rest of the answer is going to be same. So that's all for today. I hope that with this you were able to revise the chapter. So do subscribe to my channel, give it a thumbs up, do tell me how helpful did you find it, and share this video with all your friends. In the playlist I've included the rest of the chapters so you can go and watch them, and follow me on Instagram so that I can keep you updated about my next video. So bye for now and happy preparation.